The throne room of the celestial palace shimmered with bioluminescent starlight, but Queen Vera's silver fur had lost its radiance. For 3 lunar cycles, her daughter had been vanished beyond the Empire's borders without a trace. The greatest trackers in 7 galaxies had returned empty-handed, their ears flat with shame. Another failure, Vera whispered, her 9 tails coiled tight with anguish. The assembled court foxfolk nobility in ceremonial robes averted their eyes. Her mate, Prince Castian, stood rigid beside the throne. His jaw clenched. Then the doors groaned open. A human walked in. He was unremarkable by galactic standards, no wings, no extra limbs, no psionic glow. Just lean muscle under warm traveler's clothes, dark hair tied back carelessly, and eyes the color of Earth's oceans. The court gasped. Humans were rare this deep in civilized space, mostly staying on their homeworld or frontier colonies. "Your Majesty," he said, his voice rough but sincere. "My name is Dante Reeves. I'd like to find your daughter." The court erupted in derisive laughter. A human? With no technological enhancements, no magic, no hunting pedigree? But Vera raised a clawed hand, silencing them. Something in the human stance, the quiet determination, the lack of arrogance, caught her attention. "What makes you think you can succeed where my empire's finest have failed?" Dante met her gaze without flinching. "Because I won't be looking for a princess. I'll be looking for a scared child who wants to come home." The simplicity of it struck her like lightning. Every hunter had sought signs of royalty, magical signatures, rare DNA, the aura of her bloodline. None had considered the child herself. "And what do you want in return?" Prince Cassian demanded, his amber eyes narrowed with suspicion. Dante's lips quirked. "Passage back to human space when I'm done. And maybe—" He glanced at Vera, something warm flickering in his expression. "A conversation with someone who understands what it means to feel lost." The Queen's breath caught. Was this human flirting with her? In her throne room? During a crisis? The audacity should have offended her, but instead, she felt the first spark of something other than grief in weeks. "You're either brave or foolish," she said softly. "I've been called both, Your Majesty," usually in the same breath. His smile was crooked, genuine, but I'm good at finding things people have given up on, including hope. Vera studied him for a long moment. Her advisors would call this madness. Her mate was already bristling with territorial displeasure. But maternal instinct, that primal force that transcended species, whispered that this strange human might be exactly what she needed. "Very well, Dante Reeves. Find my Lyra, and you'll have anything you desire." The way she said anything made his pulse quicken in a way that had nothing to do with the mission. Ahead, Dante began where the others had ended at the plasma-scorched landing pad on the Empire's edge where Princess Lyra had last been seen. The Imperial investigators had analyzed every molecular trace, mapped every quantum fluctuation. They'd found nothing. Dante sat on the charred ground and waited. Queen Vera had insisted on accompanying him, dismissing her guards with an imperious flick of her tails. Now she watched this peculiar human with growing fascination as he simply sat silent, patient. "What exactly are you doing?" she finally asked. "Listening," he said without opening his eyes. "Your investigators looked for evidence. I'm looking for feelings. Feelings have no mass, no signature. They leave impressions anyway." He opened one eye, catching her staring at the way sunlight caught his profile. "Like the way you're trying very hard not to seem interested in whether I'm married." Vera's fur rippled with embarrassment. "I am doing no such thing. You've looked at my left hand 3 times. No rings, by the way. We humans are simple like that." His grin was infuriating. "And you're not wearing Prince Cassian's mating mark." Her 9 tails lashed. My marriage is political, human, and none of your concern. Fair enough. He stood, brushing off dust. But for the record, a woman like you deserves to be chosen, not arranged. Before she could respond, he pointed to a seemingly random direction. She went that way, scared, but not fleeing. Following something. How could you possibly? The scorch marks aren't from weapons. They're from a child's panic flare, uncontrolled magic when frightened. See how they angle? She was backing away from the platform, not running. Something drew her attention. He walked to the edge where native vines had begun reclaiming the duracrete. These are freshly broken. 3 months old, exactly. Your daughter's small for her age, right? Vera nodded, stunned. She went into the jungle, alone, following. A sound? A scent? He knelt, touching the vegetation with surprising gentleness. No, a feeling. Your people search with their heads, Your Majesty, but children follow their hearts. For the first time in weeks, Vera felt hope unfurl in her chest. You speak as if you know something about following your heart. I followed mine halfway across the galaxy to help a grieving mother. His eyes met hers, suddenly intense. Even though I'm pretty sure your husband wants to tear my throat out, Prince Cassian is protective, and you're lonely. It wasn't a question. I recognized the look. Same one I see in my mirror. The intimacy of the moment crashed over them both. Here, at the edge of wilderness, a human and a fox queen shared the kind of truth that only strangers can offer each other. Vera's voice softened. Find my daughter, Dante Reeves, and perhaps we'll both find something else we've been missing. His hand brushed hers warm. Skin against soft fur for just a heartbeat. Then they plunged into the jungle. Together. The jungle was a living cathedral of bioluminescent flora and singing crystals. Dante navigated by instinct rather than instruments. Following traces no scanner could register, a broken branch at child height, a pattern of disturbed moss that suggested small feet running, the emotional residue of fear slowly transforming into curiosity. Vera watched him work with growing admiration. He moved through the wilderness like water, adapting rather than conquering. So different from her warriors who'd bulldozed through with weapons drawn. Tell me about Earth, she said as they rested beside a phosphorescent stream. Her shoulder pressed against his. She'd been unconsciously staying close, citing safety, though they both knew better. Rainy, beautiful, complicated. He offered her his canteen. We're good at hurting each other and then feeling bad about it. But sometimes we get things right. Like knowing when someone needs help more than judgment. Is that what you think I need? Help? But her tone was playful, not offended. I think you need someone who sees Vera, not just the queen. His fingers traced idle patterns in the moss between them. Someone who notices that you haven't slept in days. That you touch your daughter's pendant when you think no one's watching. That you laugh at my terrible jokes even though they're beneath royal dignity. Your jokes are awful, she agreed. But she was smiling, truly smiling for the first time in months. Then why do your tails wag every time I make one? She swatted his arm, but the gesture was affectionate. Insufferable human, magnificent fox queen. He caught her hand, suddenly serious. We'll find her. I promise. The way he looked at her made Vera's breath catch. When had comfort transformed into attraction? When had his presence become necessary rather than merely useful? Dante, she began, but he'd already stood, alert. Do you hear that? A child's laughter, distant but clear, echoed through the jungle. They ran together, following the sound to a hidden grotto where reality bent strange. And there, playing in a pool of liquid starlight with creatures that shouldn't exist, shadow sprites from the forgotten realms, was Princess Lyra. The child looked up, her silver fur matted but her eyes bright with wonder. Mama? Vera surged forward, but Dante caught her wrist. Slowly, she's been with the shadow folk. They're protective. Indeed, the sprites had formed a defensive circle around the child, their forms flickering with warning. They took her? Vera's voice was dangerous. They saved her, Dante corrected gently, from whatever she was running from. Look at her scared at first, but they gave her sanctuary. He stepped forward, hands open, speaking in soft tones not to the sprites but to Lyra herself. Hey there, princess. I'm Dante. Your mom's been really worried about you. Think maybe we could all talk about what happened? The child's ears perked. You're human. Like in the stories. Guilty. And apparently, I'm the only one stubborn enough to check the weird glowing jungle. He sat cross-legged, non-threatening. These shadow friends of yours seem pretty cool. But I bet your mom gives better hugs. Lyra's lower lip trembled. I can't go back. The bad man will handle the bad man, Dante promised. Together. Your mom's tougher than she looks. And I'm pretty good at handling trouble. Vera's heart swelled as she watched this human, this impossible. Wonderful human coax her daughter back with patience and empathy, where force would have failed catastrophically. When Lyra finally ran into her mother's arms, the shadow sprites faded with satisfied whispers. Dot and Dante, watching the reunion, felt something break open in his own guarded heart. The journey back was slower, Lyra clinging to her mother while Dante scouted ahead. But when they emerged from the jungle at nightfall, Prince Castian was waiting along with a contingent of palace guards. His expression was not relief. It was fury. Surrender the child, he commanded, his hand on his plasma blade. Vera's eyes widened in betrayal. Castian? What, you were never meant to find her alive, he snarled. Without an heir, the council would have granted me sole regency. I would have ruled. The pieces clicked into place with sickening clarity. The convenient timing of Lyra's disappearance. The sabotage search efforts. Castian had orchestrated everything. You used our daughter as a political pawn? Vera's voice shook with rage. Her nine tails began to glow with barely contained power. I used the circumstances to seize what should have been mine by right. Castian drew his blade. The Empire needs strength, not maternal sentiment. Guards kill the human, take the child. But Dante was already moving. He'd been a soldier once before becoming a wanderer. Those instincts roared back now as he ducked plasma fire, using the terrain he'd so carefully studied on their journey. He wasn't stronger or faster than the Foxfolk guards, but he was creative, resourceful, and fighting for something that mattered. Run! He shouted to Vera. Get Lyra to safety. I'm not leaving you. Vera's power erupted, her royal magic finally unleashed. She was magnificent and terrible, a mother protecting her young, a queen defending her realm. The battle was brief but intense. Castian, realizing he was outmatched, tried to flee only to find himself face to face with Dante, who'd circled behind. Going somewhere, Prince? Dante's fist connected with Cassian's jaw with deeply satisfying force. When the palace guard, the loyal palace guard, arrived, summoned by Vera's emergency beacon, they found their traitorous prince unconscious, and their queen standing with a human who just changed the course of history. In the quiet of the palace medical wing where Lyra slept peacefully under heavy guard, Vera found Dante on a balcony overlooking the capital's lights. You saved us, she said softly, coming to stand beside him. You saved yourself. I just provided an opening. He smiled tiredly. Turns out I'm good at that. Making space for strong women to be themselves. Dante Reeves. She turned to face him fully, her nine tails curling around them both in an intimate gesture. I owe you a debt I can never repay. You owe me nothing. But his hand rose to cup her face, thumb brushing her soft fur. Though I wouldn't say no to that conversation we talked about. The one about being lost. I'm not lost anymore. Her eyes were luminous in the starlight. I'm exactly where I need to be. With someone who sees me. Not my crown, not my position. Just me. Vera, he breathed, and the name was a prayer. When they kissed, it was the meeting of two lonely souls who'd found each other across impossible distance. Soft fur against warm skin, her purr rumbling through them both, his hands gentle in her silver mane. They pulled apart slowly, foreheads touching. "Stay," she whispered. "Be my partner. My equal. My choice. I'm just a human. You're the man who walked into danger for my daughter. Who showed me what real courage looks like." Her smile was radiant. "You're exactly enough." 3 months later, the coronation ceremony was like nothing the Empire had ever seen. Queen Vera, resplendent in starlight silk, stood not with a prince of noble blood, but with a human in formal earth clothing who looked slightly uncomfortable with the attention, but utterly devoted to the woman beside him. "Citizens of the Star Empire," Vera announced to the assembled masses, "I present my chosen consort Dante Reeves, who proved that heroism lies not in bloodline or power, but in heart." The crowd erupted in cheers. The human who'd found their lost princess had become a folk hero, his story sung in every corner of the realm. Lyra, now healthy and thriving, tugged on Dante's sleeve. "Does this mean you're my papa now?" He knelt to her level, eyes suspiciously bright. "If you'll have me, little star, will you teach me about Earth? And tell me more stories? And help Mama when she gets that worried look?" "Every day," he promised. That night, in the privacy of their chambers, Vera and Dante finally had the time alone they'd been craving. She traced the scars on his chest, souvenirs from his military past, with tender claws. "No regrets?" She asked. "You gave up your whole world for mine. I gave up a world where I was alone for one where I'm loved." He pulled her close, reveling in the softness of her fur, the warmth of her body against his. "That's not a sacrifice. It's a miracle." Their lovemaking was slow, exploratory, a dialogue between two very different bodies learning to speak the same language of passion. His hands discovered the sensitive spots where her tails met her spine. Her claws traced delicate patterns on his skin, careful not to mark but delighting in his shivers. "You purr when I do this," he murmured, his lips finding the pulse point on her throat. "You make sounds too, human," she teased breathlessly. "Quite. Encouraging sounds. Should I stop encouraging?" "Don't you dare!" Afterward, tangled in silk sheets under a ceiling that mimicked Earth's night sky, his request, installed as a surprise, they talked about the future, building bridges between their peoples, raising Lyra together, creating a court based on merit and kindness rather than bloodline and politics. "I never thought I'd find this," Vera admitted. "Real partnership. True love. Neither did I." Dante kissed her forehead, each of her twitching ears, the tip of her nose. "Guess we were both looking in the wrong places. Sometimes the thing you need finds you when you're busy helping someone else." Philosopher and hero. One chose well. Warrior and mother. So did I. Years later, when historians wrote of the Fox Queen's reign, they would mark Dante's arrival as the turning point, when the Empire learned that strength came in unexpected forms, that love could bridge any distance, and that sometimes the most unlikely person holds the answer you've been seeking. But Vera and Dante knew the truth was simpler. Two lonely souls had found each other in the darkness and decided to make light together. And in the nursery where Princess Lyra slept peacefully, watched over by both advanced technology and her father's old Earth teddy bear, the future of two worlds dreamed side by side. The end.